the 112th district and new 112th district. I just wanted to say thank you for being here on a cold winter night. There's a lot of questions people have. There's a lot of confusion that people have with what's going on in Pennsylvania right now. Every 10 years there is redistricting, and it's not done appropriately. We fight against it every day. We try to create independent commissions to draw the lines, but we lost that fight. They redistrict, and they do it every 10 years. And towns just like Jessup and Dunmore and all throughout the state get divided. Right now, next year, you're going to have 3 representatives in the Mid-Valley. It's not your fault, it's not my fault, but it's the reality. And so I'm here to talk about tax reform. That is the main topic. But I'm here to talk about anything. You could have any questions that you want to ask me, you're allowed to. There's no rules. I'm here. I'm not sensitive, and I'm going to answer your questions. So I really do appreciate it. So we could just start by raising your hand and asking me a question, and we'll go from there. And thank you to the school board members that are here as well, and some of the council that are here. You guys are the lifeblood of these areas, and like I say to my district in Dunmore, Scranton, I'm there to help them. You guys do your jobs, and you come to me when you need help with the state, and I'm there for you. So anybody have questions, just feel free. And I know you didn't all come out here to hear me.
Can you explain what the taxes on the new gas and diesel?
Excuse me?
Can you explain what the history of the new tax for diesel is?
Yeah, in Harrisburg recently, for the transportation bill, they put in a gas tax on a gallon of gas on all of the consumers, all of us. You're going to be paying 28 cents more a gallon of gas. For the independent truck drivers or those of you who use diesel, you're going to be paying 38 cents more every time you fill up a gallon. So I don't know about you guys, but when I fill up my car, I can hardly look anymore. I can hardly look to see that final number come. And now when you think things are going to get better for us, they're simply not. That went up by another 28 cents, so it's going to be like $6 more every time you fill up your car. Now that'll be implemented over 5 years. And here's the real deal. And this is something you're not going to hear anywhere else. On Monday night in Harrisburg, on November 18th, I believe was the day, November 19th, we stopped that vote. And we're the minority. The Democrats, we're the minority. And we stopped that vote. And then Monday night comes, and the phone calls start coming in. And you can pretty much guess what these phone calls are. They're, hey, we'll give you this. Hey, we'll help you with this back in your district. Hey, that bill that you have waiting Senate approval, we'll get it done. Those are the calls that come in on Monday night, okay? They came in. They ran the same bill the following day. And all those people who said yes to those dangling carrots, they voted yes. They voted yes. And it passed. So what is democracy? In my eyes, you have a vote. And however you get to that vote, once you run that vote, and there's a board in Harrisburg, and it has everybody's name, Democrats and Republicans, and we said no, we voted it down. They just ran it again. Nobody said anything. They just simply ran it again. Now when I came home Thursday for my town hall meeting, they were going to run this bill on Thursday. It was consequential. It was already done. They voted on it. They made people switch. They gave them all their gifts. I'm not in Harrisburg to take gifts. I'm here to defend people like you guys from Jessup and Dunmore and all over my district who can't afford it anymore. Now there's agenda everywhere, and I understand that. But I am not going to play Harrisburg politics because I didn't get put to Harrisburg by the Democratic committees or the parties or the special interests. They didn't put me there. Ordinary people like yourselves did. I walked the streets. I left my job for 1.5 years, and ordinary people just said, you know what, I'm starting to believe this guy. And can you imagine that feeling when you finally win? Then you're going to go to Harrisburg and you're just going to say, okay, how do we do this? How does it work down here? Okay? I'm not saying I'm not afraid. And I'm not saying I don't wake up in the middle of the night wondering sometimes, what am I doing? But I'm doing the right thing. Because I know you can't afford another 30 cents per gallon. I know that. So that's the deal with the transportation bill. You're not going to hear that anywhere else. Sorry, Bob.
Yeah, Kevin, there's 30 cents per gallon, but isn't that going to be implemented over a 5-year period?
It is.
Yeah, so we're not going to see that at the pumps and just one time only.
Right.
That's going to be done throughout 5 years.
Exactly. It's going to be an incrementation of,
Right.
but you know what? Then it's here. We don't know what's going to go on in the market So if you're paying $3.40 for a gallon of gas now, there's nothing to say it's not gonna be $4. But as that's rising up to $4, that's guaranteed. That 28 cents and 38 cents is going on, just like the Johnstown's tax. You know, that was paid off back in the 50s. It's still there. They never, once they put a tax on you, they never take it off. So you're gonna be taxed now for the rest of your life to get a gallon of gas. And I work, and my wife works, and we can't afford it. And I know we make more money than most of the people in my district. I know that to be true. And so if we can't afford it, I know nobody else can afford it.
Kevin, sticking with the transportation bill, and prevailing wage, did that stay in?
It did not.
It did not?
Did not. I mean, why I voted no was because of the prevailing wage, to protect prevailing wage. When that passed, prevailing wage is gone. That's gone with them.
So what is it?
What did it move up to? 100?
25 to 100.
$100,000. Every single union in Pennsylvania fought against it. Every single union won on Monday night. Then special interests show up. That's when they show up, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, maybe an hour before we went in to vote on Tuesday. I was running around Harrisburg, literally trying to avoid some of these people. And they get you, and they tell you what they're gonna do for you. And you
So
just have to
it's
walk
not
away.
gonna be a prevailing wage rate, what will the rate be now?
It's gonna raise it to $100,000. And it's gonna hurt union workers, it's gonna hurt job growth, it's gonna hurt the middle class. But again, we stopped it. We stopped it. I don't know why I'm in there. I don't know why I'm down in Harrisburg when you run a bill and the vote totals come up and it says, we won. We stopped it. And then the next day they just say, we're gonna run it again. And then someone said, you know, that's just politics. Well, it may be politics, but it's not democracy. And when your voices aren't heard, I do get upset, okay? I mean, I'm a pretty laid-back guy. I'm a pretty happy person, but my job right now isn't to be happy and to put the smile on and go around shaking hands. And I know what Harrisburg is. I went there to help change it. And we are a little bit at a time. Go ahead.
Question,
Yes.
are you definitely running then?
What's that?
You're definitely running?
No, I never made it. This is their office. This is my office. This is a publicly run meeting. We have advertising by the caucus on Harrisburg. This is my office. Everyone's so, and you gotta understand, everyone's so interested in a campaign and an election. It's December.
Right.
It's, you know, the election is sometime late May.
Right,
And
And who paid for these flyers?
taxpayers.
okay.
Taxpayers.
So are you going
And this is-
to?
One at a time. Just a little bit. One at a time. I know who you guys are.
Well, hi, I'm Lisa Zeller, I'm a resident of Arbitration.
Well, one at a time. I mean, we'll answer them.
And I'm asking you.
You're worried about the
question.
election, and
I'm not
I
worried
can't
about
talk
the
about
election.
it.
I'm not even, I just want to know, are you going to run?
We're not
Well-
allowed to, we're not allowed to answer that
See,
question.
you don't understand. I know, well, you see,
At
you're
a taxpayer
hey,
meeting, you can't.
Joe,
talk
I got
politics.
it. I got it. I know. There's a lot of education that has to go into this. This is a meeting, an official state government meeting, and regardless of who breaks it up or who doesn't break it up, it's still an official state meeting. So we can't talk about an election. I understand people are nervous. I do. I mean, I really, truly do. This was two different groups who ran, who won, who deserve to win, who want to serve, who have families. I get all of that.
Well, then why are you here if you're not intending on running?
Because this is my job. This is my job.
Mr. Farina
what
is
Mr.
the
Farina
rep
now?
in Jessup.
Yes, he is.
Okay, so my question is, for me,
Right.
if I have to choose between
What if-
yourself and Mr. Farina on a ballot,
Right.
I'm informed. I like to know who I know what I get.
Well, you will. There's a process. You have to file by February. You have to go through a petition process. But there's other jobs. What if I wanted to run for something else? It would still include Jessup. It would still include that for a number of jobs. So when I make that decision with my family, whether it's for state rep or another job, and there are other
So
jobs.
community is your primary goal and towns and communities, even though you're, you know, Dunmore, Scranton.
I'm not following. I'm sorry.
Okay. For instance, you're going to possibly be representing, which is thing that takes every 10 years because you're
Right.
now 3 Democrats, but then you're going to have to run against fellow Democrats, correct, for a seat, if you decide to run in February.
Well, it depends what you run for. There's a chief executive seat. There's a lot of things that are out there. I mean,
Okay,
you
so you're
got,
not trying to state representative.
and that's what I've said. I've said that to a couple different
All right.
media outlets, and some of them are here today, and they know I said that.
Okay.
It's
Well,
December.
I've never been to one and I'm just
Okay.
questioning, so
Yeah.
I appreciate your.
Absolutely,
candor and-
absolutely. In fact, you know, it's It's uncommon sometimes to announce you're running for office 8 months before it.
How do you plan then?
Excuse me?
What are your intentions? How do you plan? You don't.
Well, number one, to talk to my wife and family. That's what we're gonna do first.
Mhm.
I mean, if you want this like definitive, like we're gonna have this major battle from December to May, you're not gonna get that. Because if I decide that I am gonna run, then I'm gonna announce, and then we're gonna begin our campaign. But this is my office. I'm running, this is my district office here. This is a town hall meeting. The whole, anywhere I go right now in the new 112 is my district. We didn't make that rule. The Supreme Court did. Do you know what's unfair? I had a conversation with a media person 5 minutes before this meeting. It's unfair. Do you guys realize that the 115 that got sent to Monroe County can't do the same things that we could do? Are you aware of that? It's not fair, Bob. But it either is gerrymandering, either is what they do to us in Northeast Pennsylvania, and it's always Northeast Pennsylvania that gets the end of the stick, always, because we don't have the club. Not anymore, anyway. But
Does the 115th not exist now?
no, you guys are still the 115.
Oh.
But you guys see,
But
you're
you
talking.
are the rep of the 112th district.
I am.
And even if whoever said that it was, you can do this,
Right.
why are you doing it?
Because it's my right to. The
Well,
Supreme
why?
Court.
Why
Well,
would
what
you
if I-
want to? Why would you
because
want to?
this may be-
Don't you have the people of Scranton and Dunmore to represent right now?
And I'm doing it very well.
Oh, that's why you weren't down there to cast your vote on Thursday, huh?
The second.
No, I was there, I was.
You weren't there for the
What we are gonna do one
Yeah,
at a time. I'll finish with
I
you.
voiced my opposition to this proposal, I cast a no vote. You
Can
weren't
I
there?
When, on Thursday?
Yeah, on Thursday.
It was a ceremonial
For
vote.
another vote, you weren't there, you couldn't be down there lobbying like I used to go down to Washington DC and lobby, I stayed there and fought my fight.
Yeah. Well, that was over, that vote was done. It was done. When they made their calls
You
on
got
Monday night.
it written here, I cast a no vote. You
On
weren't there
Monday-
Thursday for the final vote.
No, I wasn't, I was at my town hall meeting.
That don't, see what happened, Castellani thought he'd walk right in and win too. Come up here.
Oh, see, gentlemen, guys, this, I mean, it's, you can't even disguise it. This is not the election. This is not the election. This is our office. We have the ability to be here by the Supreme
Well,
Court
if
decision.
If I paid for this flyer, I got a right to speak.
You absolutely
And
do,
I-
but you're talking about
I want
elections.
an answer.
And I can't talk about
I
it.
don't want to be bullshit, I want
All right.
an
Well,
answer.
sir, it is a
I
town hall
don't
meeting,
need
and
to
you can say what you want to say. What's your question?
That's it.
I just told you, I went to my town hall meeting that I planned, it was a non-voting day on that Thursday. We're voting on Monday and Tuesday for the transportation bill. When we beat the transportation bill, and we beat it good, when we beat it, they just decided they're gonna do it again. Now they're gonna move it to Thursday, right? It was already done. I'm going home to be with my people. I got elected by people, ordinary
Hold
people.
on, I even talk with state reps down in Allentown and Bethlehem.
Right.
There's a lot of people that know me. I go back, I was working campaigns when you were still in diapers, Kevin.
Well, I'm 41 years old, I've certainly earned my job.
This has nothing to do with the election, but as a public official, which you are, one of the number one things I look for is transparency. And the reason I'm here tonight is about all the rumors and allegations, I'm sure you've heard them, about your veteran status and everything. As a United States Air Force veteran who served honorably in 4 years,
Thanks for
I
serving.
know that, thank you. Anytime I apply for a job, when I put that status down, I push on my DD 214. Now, the way I see it, there's two ways you can end these rumors. You can either show your DD 214, or you could just stop saying your veteran status.
Could you repeat that? My veteran, I'm not a veteran.
Now you're saying you're not.
I never said I was, ever. Nowhere, you could never find that anywhere in the world. What you've been listening
It is
to
online.
is politics.
Well,
You've been listening to anybody, Steve Corbett, or whoever, anybody who's ever, I'm a United States Marine, but I'm not a veteran.
well, I mean,
I didn't serve 4 years like you. I got hurt, I got physically discharged, I went through a hard time. But then I became an enlisted Marine. And so I never became a veteran. I wanted to, I really wanted to, but I'm not.
But are you saying you were honorably discharged?
I was not honorably discharged. I was administratively discharged. I was never honorably discharged, and I was never dishonorably discharged.
What were you discharged?
Administratively. It was time. I was there 3 years. 3 years of not holding a job. I'm a graduate from Villanova University. I got hurt. I went home for a year working odd jobs to go back. I went back, went through the process, and by that point, you know what?
graduated basic training in 97.
97, March 28, 1997. That's the day I became a Marine. And a Marine that I graduated with just left here. I am a United States Marine. That's something that can't be
You
taken
have to
away.
have your basic training then,
I went through a couple months, about 6 months of Marine combat training, infantry
and they
school.
couldn't find a job for you.
Well, hold on. I mean, this is all information that nobody has. This is
I'm ready
hearsay.
for it. Give it to me.
But no, it was just time. It was 3 years. I didn't have a job. I was in the reserves. I didn't even have a job yet. I graduated from Villanova University. I had a lot of things going on, and it was time to move on. So I moved on. I mean, could I have graduated from OCS and become an officer and gone and done great things? I hope so. That was my dream, but it didn't happen. And when I ran, and nobody ever said anything for how many years, then you run for office. Then my opponent, the first time, he's dishonorably, listen, I'm proud of what I did. I wish I could have done more. I wish I could have done better. I wish I could have become a veteran like you. But you know how much it hurts when someone says things like, you're lying about being a veteran? Never one day in my entire life did I ever say I was a United States veteran. I'm on the Veterans Affairs Committee in Harrisburg, and I'm proud of that. And about 95% of the people on that committee never served a day in their life. If you look at Northeast Pennsylvania politics, whether you're a United States Senator or Congressman or State Senator or State Rep or locally Mayor, Commissioner, School Board, you won't find a single person that served their country.
So your statement would be, you did serve in the Marines for a limited amount of time and were administratively discharged.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? One person asked me about my military service, and it was a gentleman named Steve Corbett, and that was in 2009, and I had a full conversation with him, and he denies having a conversation. I had a half-hour conversation with him, answered the questions, and then nobody ever asked again. And so I already went through a whole campaign
I
and
was
got
on the
vetted.
radio driving back from Philly today, I was listening to Corbett
Yeah.
on the radio.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Kevin, are you disabled?
Said it wasn't mentioned.
I'm not a veteran.
I was on the radio.
No, sir, that conversation just right there, I'm not a veteran. I was never a veteran, and I'm certainly not disabled. Go ahead.
You were administratively retired or put out of the service?
Correct, sir. Administrative discharge. That's right.
Is that retired or?
Yeah, I was only in for a brief time. I mean, I was in OCS, got hurt, was physically discharged, got back in, went through training, and then I was administratively discharged. But I was never retired. I didn't even earn that. You can't get retired when you barely got started.
Can we have status on property tax reform?
Hey,
Please.
okay. Wasn't this meeting about something like that?
Yeah,
And proud to be a sponsor of property tax elimination, House Bill 76. For the longest time, I was not on it, because a lot of times when people want something so bad, our property taxes are skyrocketing, okay? People are losing their homes, there's foreclosures, it's happening every day, and it's happening to the people who served our country, who raised their families, who did everything, and now, at the end of their life, where they're supposed to be safe and secure, they can't afford their houses. Okay? Their kids went through school, they've gone into college, now they're still paying property taxes they can't afford. I wrote legislation maybe 3 months ago to cap Lackawanna County property taxes. In 2006, the Common Police Court, they allowed, if you remember everything that went down in Lackawanna County when the commissioners raised their taxes 48% and then 42%. And when someone raises your taxes 48%, it never goes back to zero. It's always 14. Then they raise it, and the school directors who do this for a living, or don't do it, understand this clearly, and the property owners understand it. And so I introduced a bill that would cap that. So you can't raise taxes past the 25 mils. We're a home rule charter county. So our county, and this is important when you guys are asking me questions like, why am I here? Because we're one county. When they allowed that to happen, when the common police said you could raise your taxes to any amount, that's when everything came in. That's when corruption showed up. That's when bribes showed up. That's when all of your money went to the wrong places. This legislation would cap it back to the 25 mils. That means your taxes can't be raised more than 5 to 6%. If they wanted to do a special project in Lackawanna County, they have to go to a referendum. The referendum goes to the people, and the people say whether you're going to raise it. You know, maybe there's a big project. Kurt, maybe it's something with the stadium. Maybe they need to raise $10 million. So it has to go to a referendum. And then if the people want it, then they pass the referendum, just like we passed the referendum with the study commission in Lackawanna County. And if you can remember that, that was so contentious. You know, people who supported that got attacked from every level imaginable. You had lawyers calling people at their homes at 9 o'clock at night, threatening them that they're going to court. They were gonna be subpoenaed, they were gonna do this, all in the name of change of government. People wanted change. I always knew it because I walked the streets. People would tell me at their homes how they felt, how they couldn't afford taxes. So I supported it, and I was one of the only representatives or senators that supported it, okay? And it passed 62% to 38%. If that was an election, they would call it a landslide. People want change. They can't afford it. And so I'm gonna defend it no matter how hard it is, no matter how many times I'm getting knocked down. And coming out to these meetings, I don't mind this, because when I get home and I'm thinking about my day, I'm gonna think, wow, I spent it in front of people. I'm not just trying to slide into this job. I'm not perfect. I never will be, but I'm here. But
Do you consider a union a special interest?
a union of special interest? Sure.
What's being done in Harrisburg to turn around the tide of like all these arbitration decisions that are going to the unions, with municipalities that can't pay back the money? That's part of my question. Another part would be, do you favor raising their income tax as part of your property tax proposal? And do you favor raising the sales tax?
Both
Which
of
is
those.
already at 6%.
Yeah, both of those would occur.
I think that's going to crush people that work. You know, we're not seeing our incomes rise.
I understand.
Older people, unfortunately, I think they should plan a little better, you know, or something should have been done to keep these union contracts in line.
Well, let me ask
That
you
wouldn't
this.
let the school district.
How old are you?
I'm 34 years old.
You're 34 years old. And when there's people out there who, you know, maybe they're 70 years old or 72, and you say, you know, maybe they should have planned a little bit better. Wait till you live those 40 years, your next 40 years, because things come up.
Well, if my taxes keep going up at the pace they are, well, then yeah, it would be an issue.
Well,
But
that's why I'm
I
here.
was in the position to elect people that let that happen, so.
I agree.
I think
I'm
you're
here,
putting it on people that are working by raising their income tax and raising the sales tax on people that consume goods.
that's
I
for,
don't think that's a solution.
well, what are you talking about though? That's for property tax elimination, right?
Well, yeah, but that's,
82% of Pennsylvanians are asking for property tax elimination. 82%. So in the political world, that's extraordinary. 82% want property tax
but I
elimination.
don't think they understand fully what they're gonna get.
Well,
They're gonna get an increase in
you
sales
have a
tax,
point.
They're gonna get an increase in their income tax.
You have a point, because what they didn't understand too is that we need to find funding formulas for public education. If we have property tax elimination, now where are we getting the money for
You need
public
to fix
schools?
the problem, the root of the problem, which is healthcare costs that are.
What, I mean,
we have to see.
you're all over though. We have to focus on what that means. We have to focus on property
You're
tax.
taking money from one pot, and you're trying to fix a problem, but down the road, you're gonna have to keep raising your income tax.
Some
Or
people
the sales
call,
tax to pay that, if the costs keep going up.
some people call, I mean, everything you're saying is stuff that I went through, that I've looked into. People call a sales tax a regressive tax, because you're getting taxed for all these different goods. But when you're in a bad economy, or when you're on fixed income, and you could actually pick and choose what you buy, you're able to save your money. But when you're asked to pay a $5,000 school bill all at once, they don't even break it up into quarters. All at once, you gotta pay a $5,000 school bill. It breaks the bank. They take their homes. Nobody should lose their home. I wasn't always on this bill. And the reason I wasn't is because of some of the things you're saying. And because we didn't have a funding formula for public education. My public schools, I made clear, are my number one issue.
What happened to all the gambling money that was supposed to go to property tax reduction?
Not enough did.
Yeah. See, I'm concerned the same thing's gonna happen with you. You're just
Well,
gonna keep raising the wage tax.
You can't, you're right when you say you can't take from one group to give to the next. And when property tax elimination was the big thing, I stood firm against it until I understood everything. Because they just wanted to take away that, to bill to everybody. And then we were gonna fund public education. I said, well, how are you then gonna fund public education? So then we put an amendment on to make sure that we secure money for public education, whether it was from gaming, natural gas severance tax. There has to be a way to pay for it, right? But right now, the most important thing in Pennsylvania is property tax elimination. People are losing their homes, they're not buying medicines, they don't have shirts on their back because they can't afford their property taxes. So we have to all come up with a way. You make great points, you really do. But I'm finding my way, It just wasn't, I didn't just do this immediately. I sat and I looked into it, I studied and I researched. And now I'm on this bill. But could there be alternatives for ordinary people? Absolutely. Why are you charging people 28 cents more a gallon of gas? Why are you gonna increase the sales tax? How is that gonna hurt ordinary people? These are the things we have to look for and adjust to.
I just hope young people understand what you're doing. That's my concern.
Well, we're not officially there yet, but when it came, I will say this, when property tax elimination occurred, when we had that one big meeting, I was the only one there. And at that time, I was the only one not on the bill. So everyone who was on the bill didn't show up to explain why they're on the bill. So I'm here tonight, because I'm here, okay? I'm not trying to escape through any cracks here. I'm here. But
Question on the gas severance, lack of it. Gas severance tax, I take it that there is nothing being taxed against these, did anyone in the Pennsylvania legislation look at a model from previous states that have used, that are like Texas and Oklahoma?
Yep.
What do they do?
I think
Because when these
Oklahoma,
people came in here, they had that factored in. They had that factored in that, well, we're gonna go to Pennsylvania, we're gonna make $100 billion for 150 years up there. Now, they had this factored in that they're willing to pay X amount for a tax because they know the tax, they're assuming that the state is gonna require that. That did not happen, am I right?
well, number one, they didn't assume anything. And they're here to stay. And
That's right.
you and I talked a couple times, so I have to make a couple clear points because there's a lot of people here. We are gonna tax the natural gas companies, but we're not gonna tax them like this. Hey, you're gonna pay your fair share. How many people do you pay or acknowledge when they walk up to you and say, you're gonna do this? You don't like that, do you?
But here's the thing, though, they had this factored in. They had
Okay,
their
that's not-
business.
But that's irrelevant and it's not true, because it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, I know.
There's discussion of,
They were given a free ride.
well,
as soon as they got
listen,
it.
part of my bill to repeal the gas tax, the 28 cents that you're gonna pay, is to tax the severance companies 5.5%. Now, I've heard a lot of people talk about it. They have these special videos they even put out, they're running for office, and we're gonna tax the gas companies. Well, guess what? We talk to the gas companies. We know the gas companies. We visit their sites. We know their environmental safety issues. We want everything to be right. We want things to be safe. And we want to tax them. But we're not gonna tax them. You're the CEO of Exxon. Hey, we're taxing you. That doesn't work. It's gotta be, how could you help our community? How could you help our community? Here's what we're going through. Maybe they should come here. Maybe they should come here with me. Maybe we do round two.
That's why I'm saying, why didn't they look at how it was handled with Texas, Oklahoma? Do they have property taxes?
Look at the state of Texas. Because of the natural gas severance tax, do you know what they pay for college education in Texas? Basically nothing. Look at California, basically nothing. Look at
That's my
Oklahoma,
point.
basically nothing.
That's my point.
What do we pay in Pennsylvania? We all know what we pay in Pennsylvania. And we kind of have to laugh at it, but deep down we're all like, wow. You know,
They'll threaten to pull out of here, but they'll never pull out of here because
no, you're right.
after this 30 years of work, there's 30 years of work a mile lower
You're
than
right.
this layer. I know that for a fact because I built a few of those wells.
You're right. And they are going to stay here. And so we are going to offer us and them conversations to increase the gas tax. We're going to do that, the severance tax.
All I'm
But it can't
saying-
be,
all I'm saying,
streamed.
sir, is
You don't get it,
use
you
them
get
as
nothing
model.
done in this world by streaming because all you get is a louder conversation. You don't get amicable results. We have to talk to them, and we are talking to them. I've got a staff that's
I
been doing
spent a
this.
lot of time with Bobby Casey up there during the flood and everything, and the Georgetown flood, I was up on that. I see him, a lot of other people around.
Well, if you have information that you want to share with us, please do it, and we can work,
I
maybe.
just told you how many years of work there are.
I understand. I understand
Well,
what
they
you
might
said.
threaten to pull out of here, but they're not
They're
gonna
not.
pull out of here.
And you know what? If there was a gas tax that was too high, there'd be 100 companies looking to come and pay that because there's so much money being made.
And ExxonMobil, 38% of what they tap here, they ship overseas because they're getting work where, yeah, we're working with OPEC.
Okay, so you still concerned about my Thursday vote?
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah. And you said something else. That you're down there arguing, fighting, you know, and then you were the only one that voted. I was talking with someone outside of Philly and Bethlehem actually today, and, he brought up something, so I made a little note of it. What kind of attendance record do you have in Harrisburg?
What, 97%, 96%? Every class I've ever taken, that's an A+. And I missed 2 days, I missed 2 days at the birth of my daughter, and if I have another child, I'll miss again. And if I have another town hall meeting, I'll miss again. These are commitments. And when you do miss, and you get an excuse absent to miss, and you go home, you don't need to have people come in and attack you with cameras and videos, because it's already excused, it's official business. If I'm coming home to be with my constituents, I go to the leadership and say, I am excused. I'm excused, and I'm proud to do that. Anybody can show up and push buttons and say, hey, I'm fighting for this, I'm fighting for this. Well, I was the only one who stood up for the 28% tax increase. When you go fill up your gas tank, remember that.
I'm confused. So, this is your guys' conversation. So you're saying you went to Harrisburg, you voted for no.
Monday.
You came back because you knew the vote was already over. But the public believed the vote was actually going to be on Thursday, and because of that, we, whoever, feels like you weren't there on Thursday to have our vote.
The public opinion,
Right.
the public approval of Harrisburg is 18%.
So why does the public feel the vote was on Thursday, but it wasn't?
Well, I don't think they do.
Well, you.
The public approval of
you
Harrisburg
told
is
him,
18%.
You just told him, you're like, well, I wasn't there on Thursday because the vote was already over.
Look, it goes to the Senate. After we said no, and then they ran the same bill again, then they got their way, after buying a couple of the legislators. Then,
That's why you can't leave, you gotta stay there until it's
It's over.
passed
It
and
was over.
ready to be put to head.
once those people flip-flop from the no to the yes, it's over, because now they actually took the bribes. They took what the calls that came to me. I could have taken all that stuff. I could have taken all of that stuff and stayed there till Thursday and hit my little button and said, I was there for the vote. But you know what I said? I said no to that because I'm saying no to Harrisburg. That's
So,
why.
If you,
It's
whether,
different,
whether
it's
you
different.
were there or not on Thursday, would the vote have been the same?
It would have been one different.
One
Oh.
different.
One different,
And
yeah. I think it was
if you had
36,
any friends there and you talked to them, you could have might have swayed one or two.
like the night before.
Yeah.
I don't have the $100,000
When I'm
to give
lobbying
to
in
them.
Washington, things change.
It was over. And anybody that didn't stand up for the 28% tax increase is just going through the motions. I publicly went out immediately talking about it. Do you want the ordinary to happen again? Do you want somebody to continue down this path of go along to get along, pretend it's all okay? Because it's not okay what's going on in this
The last
country.
four bills Bush passed before he got out of office was taking away some of the power, Department of Environmental Protection, taking away some of the environmental resources, some powers there. He supplemented the tobacco companies, supplemented the pharmaceuticals, and of course ExxonMobil, because we know gas went up 2.5 times since then.
Right? Hey, well, maybe I'll run for his job one day. I don't know.
It seems you're like talking about raising taxes quite a bit, raising on the gas company. The corporate tax in Pennsylvania is what, 39.9%?
You gotta go back,
Well,
I'm here for a tax reform meeting. I am the leading tax reformer in the area.
Okay.
And your statement to start is you're raising taxes a lot. That doesn't even comprehend it.
Well, you're gonna raise the wage tax, you're gonna raise the
Those are
county
slight
tax.
things to a major property tax.
They're not slight things to people that work.
Well, I work.
Yeah.
I work, and I know what I pay in property taxes.
What's the
We haven't
corporate-
had a reassessment in
But
Lackawanna
tax
County.
return- tax-
Listen, these are crucial. We haven't had a reassessment in Lackawanna County in what, 40 years? Do you know what that means? It means we're not paying equal taxes. It means you could go down to the appeals office tomorrow and say, hey, my neighbor's paying less taxes for me. Could you make my taxes less? And you go into the meeting, you have it, and they make your taxes less.
Whose issue is
That's
that?
the
Is that
county.
a local issue or a state issue?
It's the county.
It's the county. Who do you work for? The state.
Sure, but I represent the county, I represent the borough, I represent everybody.
But
Represent
are you
the people.
gonna, is there something the state's gonna do to correct that issue?
Which issue is that?
The issue you just mentioned?
About the assessment?
Yes.
We're actually talking right now for them to pay for it. The excuse always is that we don't have enough money, but then you find the budgets do have the money, but they're just spent differently. So we're gonna try to get the state to pay for the reassessment. so that way everybody's on equal playing fields.
Okay, so you're.
Because I would never go down to that appeals board. I struggle. I could use the $250 less a month on my bill, but why should I get to go to an appeals meeting when a senior citizen from Carbondale can't? Why should I be able to do that? So I don't,
Why can't they?
because they don't even know about it.
They have
No,
public
they don't even know about it. They don't even know where to go. Some of them are handicapped. My point is it should be universal. We should all be paying a fair share. That doesn't exist.
Back to my question though. So you're talking about tax reform. What's the corporate tax rate in Pennsylvania?
The corporate tax rate?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
I think it's like 39%.
It's too bad.
So it's one of the highest in the world, basically.
Right.
It's in the thirties.
Yeah, what's the unemployment rate in Pennsylvania? About 10%. So
Even higher here.
are you in favor of lowering the corporate tax rate?
Absolutely.
Okay, is there anything you're doing to
Not
make
currently.
that happen?
Not currently. I've been quite busy, but we do have 203 representatives to help out.
Kevin, on the property tax elimination,
Yeah.
is that, are you talking for a primary piece of property, like where you live?
Wherever you pay your property
No,
taxes.
my basic thing is, okay, say you own multiple pieces of property.
Right.
One is the house where you live.
It would be your primary.
Okay,
Your primary.
so these people that own tons of property aren't gonna get away with a huge cut. They're still gonna pay property taxes on the excess property they have.
It would be your primary, TJ, correct? Wouldn't it be your primary house that you would be, that's where you pay your property taxes for school districts. You don't pay property taxes for school districts on multiple homes. So it would just be on your
I
primary.
believe that you pay it, as long as you own a property, if you're a landowner, and you have 5 or 10 homes, whatever it may be, I believe you have to pay property taxes or school property taxes.
On every-
On every single.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, and I'll get, so you might have to pay on every property. You do.
Well, that's fine. I mean, my point is, okay, and obviously, when we remove revenue, we have to replace it with something else. And obviously, the things we looked at are increase in personal income tax, increase in sales tax.
A severance tax to help property tax
Okay.
relief, a gaming tax.
Okay.
These are the major industries of our state, and they're not being taxed.
Right,
Okay?
okay.
But you are.
Right, but my point is, you know, people who own lots of property generally they're generally wealthy. They're not, in most cases, the working class, okay?
I own one home. I own
Okay,
one.
and that's fine, I mean, I'm not.
So you know.
Okay, I'm not going there. I'm going, what I'm saying is, you know, is to make sure that we're not gonna take and replace it, and the working class is gonna be paying into it, and the people that own tons of property are gonna get a free ride because they own tons of property, and they don't spend their money in Pennsylvania, they spend it somewhere else.
Right, no, it doesn't appear that's the case.
Thank you.
I got a question along the line of taxes, and speaking about the Jesuit schools we have in the county, specifically University of Scranton, and them being tax exempt. And I know this isn't applied up here, but the way University of Scranton is buying up taxable income and not getting taxed because they're a Jesuit school, has anybody addressed maybe not taxing the original building and then taxing what they bought up, or how does that work? I mean, I don't.
A lot of, first of all, it's not just because they're Jesuits. It's, if, you know, I talked to Georgetown University, I talked to Villanova University, all of these schools really don't pay taxes to the communities. But again, and people want them to. You know, people want rich institutions to pay a fair share. But it's the same old thing, it's the screaming. It's the, why doesn't the University of Scranton pay? You know, tell the University of Scranton to pay. And so, that's not how we're operating right now. I'm only in office a year, but I'm in meetings with the University of Scranton, working on their projects, supporting some of the things they're doing, and then be able to say, you know what, I'm out in the community a whole lot, and people really need some assistance. What do you think you'd be able to do? Is there some, but you can't do that by writing a letter screaming at the University of Scranton, or coming to this town hall meeting and say, yeah, you guys are right. Yeah, they owe us the money. Look at, they're rich. They have so much money. Look at how high tuition is. That's not how it works. So I'm trying to work with those institutions, especially Scranton, to figure out a way how they can add to our city. Because look at what's happening. The city of Scranton is basically seconds away from bankruptcy. You know, we can't get loans, and the loans we do get are ridiculously high, and we're paying our taxes to pay down the burden of debt. That's what we're doing. Taxes are supposed to go to services. Taxes are supposed to go to police and fire and roads and emergency, and here we are to volunteer fire. You know, our taxes aren't going to that. Our taxes are going to paying down debt services. You get a credit card, okay, and you rack up the charges, and you have a, I don't know, 16% interest rate. All you're doing on that bill is paying the interest, and that's what your taxes are doing. That's why they're going up. That's why I introduced legislation to say, hold on, we can't do this anymore. Anyway, we're a home rule charter county. You weren't supposed to be able to do it. Why did that happen? Why did the common police court say we're going to let this county go and they can raise taxes all they want? That's when it all went down. That's when the corruption began. And when people are being fed and contracts are going out, everyone's happy. Until we realize when it all calms down, we're the ones that lost the money. You know, we're the ones that got the wool pulled over our eyes. And that's why I'm running. That's why I ran for office. I'm not saying other people aren't trying, they are. But it's not about the gotcha game anymore. We can't do that.
Just announced it, that's why I'm running.
We have a gin. We have a gin.
Wasn't that?
Guys, listen. Hold on,
I
I understand. I understand the fear and anxiety of what took place. And if you don't see it in my eyes, there's a reason. But
We understand how Scranton got to be the way it is, but what you didn't answer, and I'm curious if you can, is how are you gonna fix that? You didn't,
oh, it's a.
well, what's like your first,
Yeah, well,
what's the
the first thing we have to do, unfortunately, is we have to pay our unions for what happened. We went 12 years of arbitration, when little payments could have been made the whole time.
How are you gonna pay that?
There was a fight, they were paying it. Well, the Supreme Court just said they have to pay it, so the taxpayers have to pay it. So now we can't even get a loan, we can't even get a loan anticipation loan. So,
Unions amalgamated, they took concessions for the last 8 years.
and Act 47, which we're in right now, we're a distressed city. And Act 47, we were basically a pilot program, and the governor at the time, I think it was Swiger, begged us to stay in. Begged us to stay in this program. This was a model that was going to get cities like us.
I don't have, but my question
We need,
what are
one of the
gonna
things
do
you
that
said
somebody
makes
else
greatest
isn't
sense.
gonna do?
The 39%.
He's not a public official, you are, so what
Where
are
do you think we get this information
From,
from?
I know from the people.
This is
but
where, this
what-
is,
Do you have a plan, like what do you think?
absolutely, that's one of them. We need to attract businesses. We have the highest unemployment here, so we need to attract businesses. But how do we do that when they gotta pay almost 40% tax just to come here? We have to offer incentives. We have to go to our colleges, and we have to create civic engagement programs. This is gonna take a long time. This isn't gonna take a year. This is gonna take 12 years, if it's done right. And we gotta get our young people involved in our community, and they gotta do internships, and they gotta work for these companies, and then they gotta stay here. They gotta create their own jobs. Because unless you're a doctor or a lawyer, or your family has a business, there's not much here for you. We have to cold call. We have to pick up the phone and call businesses about all these empty spots that we have in our Mid-Valley centers and our Dunmore centers, all these empty buildings, there's nobody here. We pick up the phone and cold call. I have a friend in Chicago who has a business who's thinking about moving it here. How do we do it? A little bit at a time. I mean, to sit here and say, I have all the answers, can we file bankruptcy? We could do that. We can file bankruptcy tomorrow. But guess what? Now we're in control by the courts. They run us. We're no longer a city. The courts tell us who we are, what to spend, and I think we're better than that. So, I don't have all the answers.
So there's people making cold calls right now?
Absolutely. I do all the time. Not people, me.
How do you
Yeah.
sell Scranton though? How do you sell people to come there when, I mean, we have Jessup is building up, which is
They're doing great, yeah.
Great, but how do you do the same thing in that city, like you said, with all with the reputation it has?
It's hard. In fact, when we changed when I was part of the Government Study Commission, one of the guys from the chief executive, Fitzgerald from Allegheny County, he came in and said they were in the same boat as we were. He said, but because of the political perception of the area, the corruption, the mistrust, people wouldn't come there. That changed. When their government changed, it all changed. And I asked him a question, live on television, was part of the reason that Allegheny County became, because their job growth is always high. Their unemployment is always low now, lowest in the state. He said it changed because people started to trust the new government because they were part of that new government. When you're part of something, you believe in it. When you go to a horse race and you're watching the horses go in a circle, you don't really care. You put $2 on number 5, you're watching number 5. We need people to get involved, to be a part of it. And it can't be a gotcha game. I'm not saying I'm not gonna come here and get yelled at and screamed at or mocked a little bit, so what? But I'm not gonna be a part of the gotcha game. So that's how we do it. We get incentives together and we bring businesses here. But it's gonna take a long time. It's gonna take 12 years. It's not gonna take the next year. It's not gonna happen next year. I probably won't be in public service when it does happen. Anybody else on tax reform?
How about the new unemployment laws that affect everybody?
With the seasonal?
Kicked in January, the high quarter, the 49.5%.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous.
26 weeks.
Right.
Any way of repealing that when Corbett's done?
Well, it's not just him. You know, we have,
How many Democrats voted for that?
I think that was before I got there, though. I think it was before I got there. But what you're talking about is the seasonal, because it's based on the quarters.
No, it's construction workers.
Exactly. So people, you know what, the whole point is, when people don't understand what you do for a living, they don't understand. Okay, if a guy never worked construction in his life, and he's representing you, he doesn't have an idea. So when you go out and you work your half year or whatever, and it's 25 hours a day, and you're killing yourself, and then all of a sudden, there's no work for these next 2 quarters, and now they're gonna say, you can't collect unemployment, it's wrong. It is wrong. But so it needs to be fixed. But there's a stronghold down there, and Philadelphia controls it. Philadelphia doesn't have the same climate as up here. Philadelphia's warmer. So are other areas of the state. And you know what? Our area right now, we have the youngest group of legislators in the whole state. And for good or bad, that's the reality. You know, when we talked about Jessup earlier, how great it is now in Jessup right now, well, God, you had 40, 50 years of political strength. And you know what? We have to build up day by day. It's not going to happen tomorrow. And I'm not here to knock any other legislator, because as I said earlier, they risked the same things I did. They ran, they won, they deserved. And if the day comes where there is a change, well, that's democracy. And I'm part of it. But actually, I'm sorry, go ahead, because let me just...
Yeah.
I go to Penn State and I saw you were supposed to be coming to school. Why didn't you?
I did it. What day was that, PJ?
It was the Thursday or Wednesday.
I believe I got an email saying.
It got changed from Monday to Thursday.
All right,
But there was a big crowd.
It was nice. When we talked about tuition, number one, we talked about civic engagement, we talked about state funding for a school like Penn State, and the number one thing we talked about, Penn State has tentacles all over the state. They're the largest institution in the whole state of Pennsylvania. I talked about how we need to go and visit all these satellite schools to make sure that they get their fair share, especially Worthington. Is that where you go?
Yeah. If you're so concerned about tuition, then why am I seeing my taxpayers' money being put into robocalls and other kind of flyers to my house when you should put that money towards a program for tuition?
Well, how many people would be here tonight if we didn't have the ability to inform them about it? And where do you think that money goes if it doesn't get spent here? Well, let me tell you
You have
this.
access to
If
my
it
cell
does-
phone number.
let me tell you this.
So why
I
can't
don't.
they get access
I
to,
don't.
well, not you, but
Harrisburg.
state and
Yeah.
Harrisburg, so why can't they get access to emails? That's more easier
Well,
to get instead of,
It's
that's paperless, it's not, it's electronic.
It's a good idea. That's you know what? You're right. That's a good idea. But if that money's not spent here, then it's gone and it gets spent somewhere else. So why not bring it here? Why not assemble this group of people here to talk about ideas? But I'll take your idea and I'll say something about it, because you're right. Why shouldn't it just go out to an email blast? We do those. We do email blasts, and they're free.
I get emails.
It's a good point.
But
Good
what
point. But for my sake too. I was there at that Penn State meeting, right? It can't be the gotcha game. It could be, hey, how was that meeting at Penn State? And then we have that conversation. It's always this gotcha. Of course I was there. I'm all over the
I
place.
didn't see it.
Yeah.
So I never got that email saying.
And I'll be back.
Reschedule.
I'll be back. In fact, we're going to be going to the University of Scranton and Marywood, all over our district, Johnson's. Talking to students is incredibly important to me. To let them know, number one, the mistakes I made, and don't make those. To talk to them about ideas and how to get involved in programs and internships. We have 3 people who've done internships from the colleges in our office, and they're incredible, and they're part of our policy decisions. I listen to people. I have bills in the House of Representatives because someone came up to me and said, hey, could you do this? I have a bill right now, $500 tax credit for all the volunteer firefighters because they asked me. That's how simple it is. And we lost 100,000 volunteer firefighters in Pennsylvania because people stopped thinking about them. People just need to talk to you. doesn't need to be the gotcha. And I don't mind the gotcha. But... Anybody else? Yep. We're gonna wrap up pretty soon.
All right, I just wanted to touch on our little exchange here before, though. I never met you before, it's the first time I ever talked to you, but in the situation with the gas fields and drillers, if you can get your...
You were at the town hall meeting in Dunmore, weren't you?
No,
No?
sir. First time ever. Just if you can get your constituents to look at other states as models and then tweak it. And my real question now is, I believe it was you mentioned about a subsidy for volunteer hiring. What does that entail?
$500 tax credit. So anything that they buy themselves, equipment, training, that they get that money back when they do their taxes, because they do it on a volunteer basis.
Right.
It was 100. Our bill's gonna try to get to 500. And with all the changes in volunteer or regular firefighters, small townships can't afford them anymore. People are talking about consolidation, and one way to weed, and that's another thing we could talk about. For the volunteer, like Scranton has a full-time force. If one day they were a volunteer force, that would change a whole, maybe 50, 60% of the budget. It's all cops and firefighters, them and their pensions and their salaries. But it's not gonna happen in a day or a year. It's gonna take time. Because you can weed in the volunteer firefighters, but they have to be exceptional. Because these are trained professional
You're not
firefighters.
saying you're gonna fire anyone, you're saying basically retire.
Right, I am saying that.
Okay.
Yeah, because you imagine, and it's fair, it's a fair assessment, because imagine your life, your whole life, you've done something, and you're trained to do that one thing, and you're really good at it, and it's an incredible cause that they do. And then you're told at 46, you're done. What are you gonna do? What are your families gonna do? I mean, I have a hard time saying that I would say, I'm sorry. But because it's an important job. It's not a job in an office where you're not doing anything. There's some of those too. These are people saving our lives.
Kevin, is this credit strictly for the volunteer firefighters, or is it for the paid firefighters as well?
It's just for the volunteers, because that came up. Yeah, I mean, we can't take it to that level. I mean, as much as you'd like to, I think it has to be for people who are doing this voluntarily. And like I said, we're losing hundreds of thousands. We need to grow our base of volunteer firefighters, because it's a brotherhood and fraternity that I appreciate. You know, to see people going out and doing this every day of their lives not being paid. $500 tax credit certainly isn't enough. Good.
Your newsletter indicates that you defended women's equal pay. I want to know what the plan is and where it's going.
Well, we had a round table in Harrisburg, and we have an LPO research group. And number one, we just wanted to know the findings of what women make people compared to men. And it's astonishing, as you read, to see that women made, I think it was 78 cents to the dollar, was that right now? Yeah.
Very close, yeah.
I have a wife, I have a daughter, and I'm curious to why in the United States of America, when women have rights to do everything else in the world and serve the military, work, raise families. My wife comes home from work, and she immediately has the kids. She goes to bed, she wakes up, she goes to her job as a teacher, she comes home, it's over and over and over. And I want to know why over a course she's going to make $2 million less than a man. So we're going to do a resolution of, it's not a binding resolution, but we're beginning to ask questions of why, just like people are asking about the minimum wage. You've got to ask the question first, and that's the question we're asking.
How do you obtain that information?
We have people, we have the lawyers who do the research.
And they're able to get that accurate information? I mean, I would, considering the privacy.
No, they're very good, and they have access to the material that you're reading. Nothing is printed without it being verified, and that's the answer. Women make less than men.
So do we see it sometime in the very near future that changing?
If we stand up together and do it, absolutely, without a doubt. Does anybody else, I mean, I'm going to come back to you, but a lot of people, anybody else have any questions?
Just so I'm clear on your tax reform policy now, so you're gonna eliminate school taxes, that's your goal.
We don't know yet. We don't know.
But that's what you're pushing for.
I'm on House Bill 76 to make sure that my amendment can be offered to protect public education. House Bill 76 eliminates property taxes. Okay? On paper, that sounds great. But then how are we gonna pay for public schools? How are we gonna pay for it? So I have an amendment looking, whether it comes to the general fund, whether it comes to severance tax, where are we gonna find the money to fund our public schools? My number one issue is public schools. It always has been, I've not sugarcoated that. And if we get rid of property taxes, then how are we gonna fund our public schools? I'm for eliminating property taxes if we could properly do it. See, I'm not jumping up and down saying, let's get rid of property taxes, because it's taking it from one group and stealing it from the other group. Okay, our public schools need money. They need funding, and they're not gonna get $1 less than they're already getting. And that's what my amendment is gonna say. Where's that money gonna come from? You can't, it sounds good, right? People ran around for 6 months. Yeah, let's eliminate property taxes. This is great. This is a great talking point. Well, how are we gonna fund public schools? That's what we're looking at right now. How are we gonna do it? It's a formula, and we have to have it precise. Because if we lose $1 billion, and I think by 2017, if we got rid of property taxes, we started this new input of House Bill 76, we'd be $5 billion short of public education. $5 billion. And that's not gonna happen under my watch. And that's what I'm gonna be public about. And I'm not gonna just sit around and just push buttons. I'm gonna raise my voice, and I'm gonna make sure everyone knows what's going on. Because this happens to us all the time. This goes down all the time. If I didn't talk about the 28 cents tax increase on gasoline, nobody would have. Nobody would have. But I am talking about it.
Do you foresee giving people a choice? I mean, what if you have to raise their income tax by 2%, and you have to raise the sales tax by 1%? What if I would have paid less in my property tax?
Partial property tax rebate?
Yeah.
Sure. It's something, and it's something to come to too. Because when the leaders of this movement, and it's a movement now, I think there's 98 co-sponsors. When you get 98 co-sponsors or something, it's getting ready to go. And every side knows that now. It's not just the Democrat Republican. Everyone's paying attention to it. And that's why I'm on it, because I wasn't always on it. But now I'm on it from the inside, because I want it to work, but it has to work for everybody. But bring that to my attention, what you're talking about. I appreciate it, I do. Sure.
When you're talking property tax, are you talking the school tax and the county tax? When you say property tax, are you talking about all three of those taxes in one?
Yeah, because it is eliminating property taxes.
Well, why can't they eliminate the property tax and leave the school tax, to pay for education?
They could.
All they gotta do is tax cabin and the rest of those jokers.
They could. No, it's a good question.
Roads and everything else.
It's a good question. There's a couple bills out there, partial elimination, different things like that. You gotta, sir, you've got a lot of time. Let me talk to him. That was his first question. When bills start,
I'm just speaking the truth, I live this life.
when bills start, they don't always make it. You could write a bill tomorrow and it could go nowhere. So it's important to get it into the right committees, and then you have to have the right political pull. So it's difficult. So I've seen your bill, and I've seen it do nothing. So that's just the truth.
Okay, well, the one that you didn't show up to vote on Thursday, you said you voted on Tuesday, no, calls came in.
Calls came in Monday.
Or whatever, and you decided not to show up on Thursday.
I got officially excused by the Democratic leadership.
But don't you think it would have been more important for you to show up, cast your vote for no, and speak your mind?
No, I don't, because I know the 8 or 9 people that took that bribe, that took that money, and played the old Harrisburg two-step. I'm not going to do it. Look what's going on. The approval rating of our Congress in Harrisburg is so low. It's the lowest in the history of our country. And you're going to sit here and ask me to go and do the same thing. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do the same thing. I could have, and if I voted yes the next day, you'd be saying, he's a sellout. He's a sellout. He took that bribe, he raised our gas, he doesn't pay for his gas. I don't pay for my gas, by the way.
I mean, even though you knew you weren't gonna win the vote, you could have still won and voted no again.
I certainly could have. And I would have disappointed 100 people that I advertised for 3 months about a town hall meeting on health care. One of the number 1 concerns in this country right now is health care. Families have lost it, families can't afford it, and we went there that night to help them with government specialists from Blue Cross. That's my job. Can you imagine? I don't know if you have children or not, but if I didn't have health care, and they didn't have health care, it's more important than an inconsequential vote, a ceremonial signing of a transportation bill that we defeated on Monday night. I'm not Harrisburg. I understand your concerns. I'm not Harrisburg. I'm doing it different, for good or bad. If I serve 1 term, then I serve 1 term. Then you can have your 18% approval rating. You can have it.
Who's with the bribes? You keep saying it.
Hey, okay, I'm here to represent.
Let's go.
All you have to do is look at the Monday vote and look at the Tuesday vote and see the 7 people that flipped.
If you really want to do research, you'll see who flipped, you know? And the concern should be this. No, it was none of our guys. It was none of our people. It wasn't our people. But they did flip. Wherever they're from, they flipped, and they changed the whole process. And now we're
Republicans.
Listen to them.
Kevin, they were Republicans that voted no at first and then voted yes in the end? Or were they both parties?
Both parties.
All from different areas?
Different areas, correct? We haven't, I don't want to,
No, I'm not.
They were dispersed throughout the state.
yeah, I mean, pretty much our Lackawanna, apparently contingent, nobody flipped. No. And we all talked about it at that. Nobody flipped. But they did flip. So they flipped and we lost, and you're going to be paying a lot until you're dead. I knew this was going to be a major issue. Like, this wasn't, hey, can I be excused from the Thursday vote? Okay, well, you're going to hear a lot of flack, so what? It's now a conversation. If I didn't do this, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I can't afford 28 cents more to fill up my gas tank. And if I was an independent trucker and I had to pay 38%, I couldn't afford that either. So I hope this issue continues all the way. The next year, I hope we talk about this issue. It's so important. What's going to happen to us? Could you afford it?
No, what?
Why is it 38 for diesel and 28 on gas?
Diesel's more expensive.
So when I asked you about,
Diesel operates bigger engines and
Right,
larger
but,
trucks.
I mean, diesel's more consumed than gas, isn't it?
They're not worried about them. They're not worried about the small trucker. They're not worried about him because he doesn't have the voice. He doesn't have the ability to organize.
Is that what they're assuming, that only big businesses are spending money on diesel?
They could be, but they're also assuming that everybody's just going to continue to allow it to happen. They're also assuming that nobody's going to say anything. That nobody's going to scream at the top of their lungs. You don't think that people get upset with me when I start criticizing the process? Of course they get upset with me. The people who've been there for 30 years and they have 3 jobs, they're contractors and lawyers, and then their state job is their part-time job to play money. This is my job. And I'm defending people in this job. And it's not always easy, but I'm doing my best.
I just don't understand. You could buy off-road diesel. I own a small business, and I have all diesel trucks. Off-road diesel is 60 cents less per gallon. They add dye to it, which costs money to do, just so they give you a $5,000 fine if you have it in the tank. Are they raising the tax on the off-road also? Or is it
I don't
just-
know.
You don't
know.
know.
But they're not.
That's your farm consumption.
One that goes in the truck.
Okay, no.
That does not,
But-
that's your farm.
Get a card from TJ, and we'll address that question with you, and we'll get back to you.
Who's actually going to, I don't know if this will be the state auditor's office, will actually prove that the amount of gas tax that we're going to incur is actually going to go to all of the road repairs, bridge repairs that they claim right now, that that's their reasoning? Who actually does the verification on that?
Yeah.
Because,
Auditors.
will they do it?
Auditors in office, Eugene D. Pasquale.
Auditors.
And I'll have, and Eugene D. Pasquale, I talked to him, and I'll bring that question up. That's a great question.
Because at some point, we all drive these roads, they're a mess compared to any other state, and even the bridges, and there are a lot of issues out there, safety issues. And I almost don't mind paying a little more if I know it's going to protect us from driving on those. But I want to be sure that my tax increase is going to go to benefit
Absolutely.
that purpose.
When I'm driving home from Harrisburg, when I get to around the Pittston area, everything just changes. I mean, we literally, from Pittston to Clark Summit, we have the worst roads in the state of Pennsylvania.
drive up Main Avenue.
Yeah. I mean, it's horrendous, but in every town, every small town too. I mean, it's a bad economy. And we have these companies, and we're not asking them to participate, to give us a little more. Who would ever have thought that we would have the richest natural resource in the history of the world underneath our earth in Pennsylvania? And so we have the ability to not only create jobs all over the place, to create new businesses. Look what's going on up in Tucson. I mean, it's amazing. Restaurants and businesses and hotels are being built I mean, we could regenerate this state. We're the 49th worst state in job creation. So that makes us almost the very worst in the country. And here these companies are, and instead of the demands, it's got to be, how do we do this together? How do we work together with you guys? You're going to make your profit, bring jobs to our area. Let our kids stay here if they want to.
Bring jobs, but they don't hire people from the area.
Lots of these companies, lots of the natural gas companies hire because these people have been doing it for years. They're trained, they're experts, and they're coming from Oklahoma and Florida and Texas. But
And where do they send their money? Back to Oklahoma, Texas.
we have to start with our trade schools though.
Right.
Lackawanna College, and John, we have to make sure that our kids aren't going to get a liberal arts education when they don't want that. You know, some kids don't need to go to college. They can go and get this degree in natural gas, and they can go make more than any of us will ever make.
And then they can work 7/12s for 30 days straight.
It's a tough job. A lot of them are be willing right now, though.
How do you raise a family when you work 7/12s, 30 days straight? Well, you could raise a family, but how do you see your family?
I know, it's hard. It's hard. I feel that question every day.
Thank God I don't do that.
But I mean, in my job, I have to leave. You know, we all, like, my son, we were coming here tonight, and he was grabbing me and saying, "Why are you leaving again?" You know, I know how it feels. Well, guys, I appreciate it. I really do. Anybody who has any follow-up questions, TJ's in the back. I'll give you a card. You can send him an email. We're going to have another town hall meeting in February up in Archibald. So if anybody has any questions, let us know. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is